All right, so let's take a look at some examples of how we can solve problems with rates. Okay, and so I've got a little bit of this already kind of got down here, and we'll explain that in a bit here. So example 1 says that Samantha lives in a town near the U.S.-Canada border, and what she's saying here is that the tank, her gas tank, holds 110 liters, and she can either buy gas at her town, which is in Canada, so that's $1.17 per liter, and that's Canadian, or she can travel across the border into the U.S. and fill up for $3.59 U.S. per gallon. Okay, now we want to try to figure out how much it's going to cost her to fill up her tank in both places. Well, in Canada, this one's pretty straightforward. I have it listed out here. It's $1.17 per liter. We multiply by 110 liters. We get a total of $128.70. Now, in the U.S., it's a little bit different. Okay, and so what we can do is we can we can use our conversion rates here to try to solve how much it's going to cost her to fill up here in Canada. Or sorry, here in the U.S. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is this is the price here. We have $3.59 US per gallon. I'm going to change that to how much that is in Canadian funds. So we're going to do $3.59 US dollars. And so this here, and we know that 0.85 US dollars is the same as $1 Canadian. Whoops, I did wrong. There we go. $1 Canadian. We cross multiply and divide 3.59, and we're going to end up dividing by 0.85. So this is the same as $4.22 Canadian per gallon. Okay, so instead of it being $3.59 US per gallon, it's $4.22 Canadian per gallon. Now we can also change her tank, and now there's a couple different ways to do this here. But let's do 110 liters and let's change it into gallons. Well, we know that there is 3.79 liters per 1 US gallon. And so that means that, again, we're going to divide. And so that means that her tank is 29.02 gallons. What will be 29.2 gallons. Now, once we know this, we can then very simply solve. This is 422 per gallon times the 29.02 gallons, and 29.02 times 4.22, and I'll use my rounded answers here. This means that in the US, it would cost her $122.46 Canadian to fill up. And now again, these are both in Canadian funds, and we have to make sure that when we are comparing two things, they have to be the same. Okay, we changed the gas price to Canadian, and then we figured out how many gallons our tank was to solve. Now, there's a couple of different ways that we can solve that. This is just one of them. Now, which one would be more economical? Okay, well, at this point, the price in the US is better based on the exchange rate. Okay, and so that's important there to take a look at. And again, now it's better. Okay, that's cheaper by about $6 or so, just over $6, in how it goes there. Now, normally in class, I would kind of ask you to come up with some other factors which are going to affect Samantha's saving each time she considers where to fill up. And I mean, one of the big ones is driving time. Okay, which includes crossing the border. Now, for those of you who have gone across the U.S. border, you know that it takes time, okay? And time can technically be money if you want, or she might be burning fuel as she waits at the crossing. There's also, depending on how far away this town is in the States, okay, so across the border, so she might burn fuel going across. So is it worth the $6 in savings that she gets? Okay. Other factors is that the exchange rate, okay, changes each day. Okay, so that's something that she has to kind of, depend on. Okay, if the exchange rate is better, then it'll depend on how much she pays. Okay, right now our exchange rate is a lot worse than this. Okay, so she would be paying a lot more, and that's kind of the way to look at it. Okay, depending on what our exchange rate is. Okay. Another thing just to think about too, when it comes to driving time, is the only thing she's going for gas, or is she going for everything? Is she doing her grocery shopping there? Is she picking up mail there? Whatever the case. Okay, those are all things to think about as well. Okay, so other errands or just gas. Okay, so those are things to think about as well when she determines which rate is in fact better for her.